Hi guys. This lesson today is about rounding using uh, rounding mentally, thinking about what you know about place value. I am probably not going to be doing any written additional questions. However, I probably will be stopping the video here and there just to kind of talk about a few things. I would like to encourage you to keep using your vertical number line if you feel like you need it. But try to go through the questions and think about, or go through each example and think about all of the questions that she asks you throughout the lesson.
Hi friends, I'm Mrs. Gradney, and today we'll be Hi friends, I'm Mrs. Gradney, and today we'll be rounding multi-digit numbers. Let's get started. You've been learning how to round multi-digit numbers using a vertical number line like you can see here. Today, as we continue rounding multi-digit numbers, I want you to try to picture the number line in your mind instead of drawing it. Also, pay attention to the questions that we think through as we round these numbers, because these are the same questions that I want you to ask yourself as you work on your own. Let's start by rounding 4,333 to the nearest thousand. What two thousands is 4,333 between? It's between 4,000 and 5,000. I can picture that vertical number line in my mind with 4,000 at the bottom and 5,000 at the top. Now, what is halfway between 4,000 and 5,000? 4,500 is halfway between 4,000 and 5,000. I can picture that vertical number line in my mind with 4,500 written halfway. Now, is 4,333 more than halfway or less than halfway?
So you really have to visualize here the halfway mark is 4,500, and then you have to think about, is 4,333 going to be higher than 4,500 or lower than 4,500?
4,333 is less than halfway. So what is 4,333 rounded to the nearest thousand? It's 4,000. Let's try another one. Whisper read this number to yourself. Let's round 18,753 to the nearest thousand. How is this problem the same and different from the last problem? You may have noticed that in both problems we're rounding to the nearest thousand. But in the first problem, thousands was the largest unit, and in this problem, the largest unit is 10,000. So to begin rounding 18,753 to the nearest thousand, what should we think about first? First, we should think about what two thousands is 18,753 between? It's between 18,000s and 19,000s. If you're unsure what thousands 18,753 is between, you can picture or you can actually write the number on a place value chart like this. Now we can see that there are 18,000s in 18,753. One more thousand would be 19,000s. So 18,753 is between 18,000s and 19,000s. So I'm picturing that on the number line, 18,000s at the bottom and 19,000s at the top. What do we need to think about next? Now we need to think about what is halfway between 18,000s and 19,000s. Halfway between 18,000s and 19,000s would be 18,500. And what do we need to think about next? Now we need to think, is 18,753 more than halfway or less than halfway? 18,753 is more than halfway. It's greater than that midpoint. So what is 18,753 rounded to the nearest thousand? It's 19,000. Let's try rounding to the nearest 10,000 now. Whisper read this number. Let's round 65,600 to the nearest 10,000. Now that we're rounding to the nearest 10,000, will our thinking process be the same or different than when we were rounding to the nearest thousands place? Our thinking process will be the same. We'll still be asking ourselves the same questions. We'll just be rounding to a different unit. So, rounding 65,600 to the nearest 10,000, what two 10,000s is 65,600 between? It's between 6 10,000s and 7 10,000s, or 60,000 and 70,000. Are you picturing that on the number line? Now, what is halfway between 60,000 and 70,000? 65,000 is halfway between 60,000 and 70,000. Is 65,600 more than halfway or less than halfway? It's more than halfway. So what is 65,600 rounded to the nearest 10,000? It's 70,000. Is that what you said? Let's try rounding to the nearest 100,000 now. Whisper read this number. Let's round 676,000 to the nearest 100,000. How will our thinking process compare this time with how we were thinking about rounding the other numbers in this lesson? Hopefully you're thinking that our thinking process is going to be the same. We'll be asking ourselves all the same questions, just this time we'll be thinking about the 100,000 unit. So what two 100,000s is 676,000 between? It's between 600,000 and 700,000. What's halfway between 600,000 and 700,000? 650,000 is halfway. Is 676,000 more or less than halfway? It's more than halfway. So what is 676,000 rounded to the nearest 100,000? It's 700,000. Let's try rounding another number now. Whisper read this number. Let's round 147,591 in different ways. Now this time, I don't have the questions for you to look at, but I still want you to ask yourself all those same questions as you're rounding this number. First, pause the video and round 147,591 to the nearest 100,000.
The questions, just as a reminder that you're going to think about, is what 200,000s is this number between? What is the midway point? And is this number higher than the midway point or lower than the midway point?
Did you find that 147,591 rounded to the nearest 100,000 was 100,000? Notice that 100,000 has 0 ones in the ones place, 0 tens in the tens place, 0 hundreds in the hundreds place, 0 thousands in the thousands place, and 0 10,000s in the 10,000s place. That makes this number much easier for me to add, subtract, multiply, or divide with. Much easier than the original number of 147,591. But what if I wanted a more accurate estimate? An estimate that was closer to the actual number. If we want an estimate that's closer to the actual number, we can round to a smaller unit. What's the next smaller unit than 100,000?
Remember, when she says the word unit, she's talking about place. What place? What is the next smaller place in our place value?
The next smaller unit is 10,000s. So pause the video now and round 147,591 to the nearest 10,000. Rounded to the nearest 10,000, this number is 150,000. Why didn't it round to 140,000? 147,591 is greater than the midpoint of 145,000, so it would round up to 150,000. Now pause the video and round 147,591 to the nearest 1,000, the nearest 100, and the nearest 10. Here are the estimates that you should have come up with. Check your work. Now we just rounded 147,591 to different units. Compare the estimates. What do you notice? You may have noticed that in each estimate, there are zeros in all of the units that are smaller than the unit that we rounded to. So for example, when we rounded to the nearest 10,000, all of the units that are smaller than 10,000, so the thousands, the hundreds, the tens, and the ones, all have zeros in them. You may have also noticed that as we rounded to smaller and smaller units, our estimates got closer and closer to the actual number. I think we're ready for the problem set. The must-do problems for the Lesson 9 problem set are on the screen. Watch the clock or set a timer for 10 minutes to work on these problems. If you finish the must-do problems within that 10 minutes and you still have time left, feel free to try any of the other problems on the problem set as well. Today, we rounded multi-digit numbers. Remember to check in with your teacher, and I'll see you next time for another Eureka Math lesson. Bye!
This math lesson used a lot of mental math, and so I hope that you followed along with her lesson. If you need to go back and review this lesson, please do so before you get started on your practice problem.